Now, in the world of cars, we're all a bit guilty of being distracted by what's super shiny and new. And, well, look at the number of people trying to make a style statement on their driveway with an SUV. However, for the vast majority, they just want to get from point A to point B with as little fuss as possible. And for those people, the default position for many years has been Volkswagen Golf. It comes in just about every shape and size and derivative imaginable. This is the all-new Mark 8 estate, and we're here to find out whether it still deserves that reputation of being the default family car. Now, traditionally speaking, the Volkswagen Golf takes an evolutionary approach to design, with each generation having a few nips and tucks here until we finally get to the highly polished product that we have today. But the Mark 8 actually did something a Golf hasn't done for decades, and that is split opinion. Its new domed front end and wraparound lights, complete with sharp character lines in the bonnet, certainly split opinion. However, with the passage of time, the Mark 8 has been accepted and adopted by existing owners, and it's now become the norm. The Golf has moved up market, and we've all accepted it. Now, whilst the optional metallic blue of this car hides some of those design traits, there are a few things that stand out in particular. You've got the standard LED headlights and these cascading gills that wrap around the edge of the car. The Golf remains understated and unfussy, with a clean belt line running high and along the length of the car. Obviously, with the estate you get that elongated glasshouse, but by and large this design language apes the hatchback. That means a prominent C-pillar, neat boot spoiler and chiselled rear end. Now, this particular car is in style trim, that's one up from entry level, and you get standard 17-inch alloy wheels, though I think these optional 18s look really good in this spec. A few other things that have been optioned on this car include the glass panoramic roof you see, and this metallic paint. Now, I know it's the current trend to be an extrovert at the moment these days with wacky designs, but there's something refreshingly subtle about this estate car. The interior continues that very mature theme with a cascading tiered dashboard and neat integrated vents across the width of the car. The centre console is dominated by a 10-inch touchscreen infotainment display, which is a great scale to use on the move. However, the user interface, whilst graphically impressive, isn't the most ergonomic to use, and the touch-sensitive buttons that surround the unit are just frankly difficult to operate whilst driving. This lower grade style model actually escapes the haptic feedback buttons on the steering wheel, which I'd certainly say is a good thing. Elsewhere in the cabin, build quality is strong with nice durable materials. However, I would say there are a few too many hard plastics for a car at this price point. Supportive, highly adjustable seats serve front passengers really well, and you also enjoy plenty of standard equipment such as adaptive cruise control, climate control, 10 different colours for mood lighting, although in this style trim that's actually upgraded to 30 different shades of ambient lighting. The cabin feels spacious, and that's something that's really amplified by this optional glass panoramic roof, which is a great thing to open up on sunny days. That sense of space actually translates into physical space in the rear, with back passengers having plenty of head and legroom, even with the glass panoramic roof eating into some of that overhead space. The only shortcoming is that there's a sizable transmission hump for the middle passenger to straddle. Open the boot to find a 611 litre space, which is actually larger than the previous generation car. However, it is smaller than the Skoda Octavia. There is something to be said for dog owners and estate cars, with a lower load lip enabling Fido to jump in and out with less stress. Fold those rear seats down and you'll carry far more than the dog with 1,642 litres. So, behind the wheel of the Golf estate, and now's probably a good time to talk about what's under the bonnet of this specific Golf. You'll find a 2-litre turbocharged diesel engine producing 138 brake horsepower and 360 Nm of torque. It sends its power to the front wheels via a 7-speed automatic transmission and can do 0 to 62 miles per hour in 8.9 seconds, along with a top speed of 139 miles per hour. Now, whilst Volkswagen hasn't necessarily had the most squeaky clean relationship with diesels of late, this is a very, very refined engine, I have to say. Think back to the days where diesels were a bit agricultural and rattly. Yeah, That was a very long time ago now, because this thing is smooth as silk. Okay, if you let it rev out, it does make itself known. It sounds a bit coarse and noisy, as you'd expect from most diesels. But once cruising, there's very little in the way of vibration coming through into the cabin. It's quiet, and it's got that really nice low-down torque delivery, which is what you really want from a diesel engine. Now, this sort of specification is going to spend quite a bit of time on the motorway, and having that in-gear acceleration, having that mechanical muscle that a diesel offers, as well as the fuel economy, of course, makes it very appealing indeed. Driven at speed, there's a little bit of wind noise coming from the A-pillar and a little bit of road noise creeping in, but I have to say I've done a couple of 100 miles on the motorway with this car over the past week, and it's a really lovely, comfortable thing to clock up the miles in. Like I say, that diesel engine is right at home, and this 7-speed automatic gearbox does really well when you just leave it to get on with its job. The changes are near imperceptible, and thanks to the bags of standard kit that you get in the latest Golf, it means you can set the cruise control, sit back, relax, and just let the car take the strain. It really is good at just soaking up distance, and I guess that's exactly what this sort of thing is going to be used for. Family in the back, dog to the vets, commuting backwards and forwards on the motorway. Leaving those long straight stretches of road behind for some more twisty undulating tarmac, and you'll find that the Golf is, as you'd expect, pretty competent. There's plenty of grip, and actually there's a new element of dynamicism in this Mark 8 Golf. It just feels a little bit more eager to pivot itself around corners when driven with a bit of verve. However, this steering is very much devoid of any sort of feel or feedback. Yes, it's accurate, but it disconnects the driver from what's going on, so it's nowhere near as fun to drive as something like a Ford Focus or even the current Honda Civic. The ride in this Golf estate is actually really good. This hasn't got any of the fancy adaptive dampers on it. It's all passive, and it's just so well damped. It soaks up the bumps really nicely, and you have to come across a particularly nasty pothole to get a shudder come back through the cabin. I mean, infotainment system and some hard plastics aside, it's a really lovely environment to spend time in here. It's comfortable, it's pretty ergonomic. You've got a sense that about 20 different people had a say in what goes where in here. There's lots of nice cubby holes. This one's got a wireless phone charger as well. And it's just very well equipped to put up with family life, and especially young children. I do say that some of these plastics are quite hard, but I'm sure parents of 2, 3, 4-year-olds will really appreciate the fact that these materials will put up a fight over the next few years. And diesels aren't ideally suited around town, but that low-end torque does help coming out of junctions and taking advantage of gaps at roundabouts and so on. But you start to appreciate the Golf's other, I suppose, more mundane things that it's quite good at, like really good visibility all the way around, especially out the back. In a world of cars where we seem to have tapering rear windscreens all the time, it's nice to actually be able to see out the back. And at lower speeds, this really light steering starts to make sense as well. It just makes manoeuvring the car far easier and not a wrestling match. No, the Volkswagen Golf estate is not the most soulful car to drive in the class, not by a long shot, but what it is very good at is ticking all of those boxes. A bit like your washing machine that is infinitely taken for granted in your house. It's really good at washing clothes, in the same way that this is just really good at being a solid family car. Volkswagen claims up to 60 mpg for this engine and emissions of 124 grams per kilometre of CO2. Something to keep in mind across the entire Volkswagen Golf range is that with the Golf moving upmarket, so too has its price. I mean, a Golf estate starts at £24,580 now, and this car with its engine and transmission combination over £30,000. Our best advice is actually to look lower down in the range. The entry-level car comes with so much kit these days that with a few choice options, it might actually be your best bet. With that being a Volkswagen options list, you do well to keep an eye on the subtotal. Things like our optional blue paint is £635, the 18-inch alloy wheels on this car, £700, the roof is £1,000, and the reversing camera, something that's standard on some of its rivals, is another £300. Now, if you're looking for the last word in visual charisma, you need to look elsewhere. What the Volkswagen Golf estate is very good at doing is ticking those essential boxes. It is practical, it feels like a premium product, it drives wonderfully, and it's great at covering long distances, especially in this diesel guise. The thing it does have to watch out for is that its sister car, the Skoda Octavia, is more spacious and arguably better value for money. But if you're looking for the epitome of a family all-rounder, you do far worse than the new Golf estate. Head to yesauto.com for the latest car news and reviews, and don't forget to check us out on social media. We're in all the usual places such as Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. Simply search for Yes Auto.